let's just start at the kind of bigger picture stuff, because I read your article with the Centre of Independent Studies. I obviously recommend anyone watching the show to do that. What are you looking for in this review, and what should it yield?
Thanks, Carl. The main question facing the review is, why has the Reserve Bank of Australia kept missing its targets, and how can that be fixed so that it doesn't happen in the future? My personal view is to changes that should be made include appointing more monetary policy experts to the board, making those experts individually accountable so that they explain their decisions and whether they disagree. And in general, the bank needs to be much more transparent. It needs to bring the whole community into its discussions. So I think they're the essential problems and what I would do about it.
Mm. So what have the failings been in your view of the central bank over the last decade? Because obviously, I mean, if you were looking as far as just in terms of their mandate, employment, the labour market's been slack for a very long time up until the pandemic. Before that, inflation was running below target. So, I mean, what were in particular, I suppose, those failings, and what do you identify as being the primary reasons for those failings?
So you mentioned it exactly right, that the primary target, the primary objective of the RBA is to keep inflation within 2 to 3%. But for most of the past decade, inflation has been well below that. The next most important objective is to stabilise unemployment at close to its sustainable level. But again, for most of the past decade, the unemployment rate has been well above that. The Reserve Bank could have moved those objectives closer to their targets if it cut interest rates. And there were widespread calls for it to do that over the past decade. The reason it didn't is that it had this funny view about financial stability that very few people outside the bank accept as legitimate. There's been a ton of research on the relevance of financial stability and whether monetary policy should target it, and the overwhelming result of that research is that no, the central bank should not target it with monetary policy, but that prudential policy is the appropriate instrument for dealing with financial stability.